The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Ski Sundown in nearby New Hartford, Connecticut, offering bundled lesson packages including rental equipment and lift tickets. Online registration available at skisundown.com. Winter made better. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy. Admissions now open for graduate programs in 2025. Learn how to become a changemaker at umass.edu/SPP.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, we'll head to the campus of Berkshire Community College, where the Justice Dance Performance Project will show their work unmuting for 2 performances on Thursday.
And in Northampton, the Bunnies are bringing a little relief to classrooms in need with Mo Willems at Michelson Galleries.
But first, we'll grab some popcorn and a friend or two.
And head to Images Theater, where we're about to get even more to watch.
We're at the over-century-old cinema in Williamstown, Images Cinema, which shortly is going to be renamed Image Cinemas, because instead of one screen, you're going to have more than one screen. Right, Dan Hudson from Images Cinema?
Yes, but I can't legally sign off on the organization name change. But yes, cinemas, plural, coming soon.
Is it true that you're the only single-screen cinema operating this way in the whole country?
No, there's still some other single-screen theaters in operation, but certainly you would be hard-pressed to find one in a small, rural kind of a community. Certainly not one that's in, say, like a much larger historic theater, that's kind of like a grand movie palace, that might also be doing things like, a lot of performing arts or things like that
Right.
A lot of those types of theaters are doing now. But the fact that we're a single screen theater and that's what we do is movies is certainly very rare, and we're the 6th oldest continuously operating movie theater in all of New England, and only a handful of those are anything like what we're doing here as far as like being in a town of this size or just being a single screen. So yeah, a lot's changing around here, and certainly a lot's changing for this type of operating model around the country.
What is interesting and fun about this cinema, like our friends at the Triplex Cinema in Great Barrington, not too far from here, is that this has gone into the nonprofit model. And I love that they're doing their David Lynch tribute and that you're doing your David Lynch tribute, but with some different movies. So that's fun. You could get like practically the gamut of that.
Yeah.
And apart from the movement to get another screen here, we're in the lounge, which last time we were here was on the cusp of opening, I think. And now I see that you've got writers' workshops and you've got all sorts of other things happening here in the lounge where we are now.
Yeah, we've got even more coming up starting in the next month or two. I'm going to be hosting movie game nights.
So what does that mean, like trivia or?
It'll be a mix. We'll do card games, board games, trivia.
My son made a customized clue board for Twin Peaks. A custom Twin Peaks clue board. I'll let you borrow it.
He's got his own M.O. Modus operandi.
I might not give it back after we're done with it. We're also going to have like VHS nights, vinyl nights, karaoke. We're going to be doing all sorts of different stuff in here. It's really cool.
I love it. We're talking to all the old school people. We talked to the new video store coming into Northampton the last week or whatever. So before we get to the movement to try to get this second screen going here, the last time we were here, you told us you got to see The Substance. It takes body horror to a new level. It stars Demi Moore. No one could have, I think, imagined how well that would be embraced, how many awards it would win. And despite how the Academy ruled on all sorts of things, what were some of your favorite movies of the past year that have come either through Images or not?
There's a few that still really stand out for me. I thought Nickel Boys was just an incredible achievement in POV filmmaking.
Unbelievable.
And the fact that it's not up for best cinematography is a crime. I'm always like super judgmental about the cinematography. I'm like, why this movie? Why that movie? So those are some of the movies that kind of really stood out for me that really felt like they had to be big screen experiences, which is, what we're always trying to aim for here is showcasing films that, were purposely shot to be seen on the big screen, and that's kind of the artistic intention of the filmmakers, that's the best way to experience the film.
We're at Images Cinema in Williamstown with Dan Hudson. Images is one screen right now, but is hoping to expand. What's the name of this campaign, and tell us about what's happening?
The name of the campaign is Look Forward. which has multiple meanings. But for us, two of the things that really spoke to us on this is when you are in a movie theater, having that traditional cinematic collective experience, you are all together. Having that collective experience looking forward. You're all looking forward together.
Yeah.
And of course, this is about the future of images. So we are looking forward with this campaign. This is the biggest campaign that we've undertaken since we've been a nonprofit.
Which was when?
1998. So
a long time.
Yeah. So, we've had some smaller renovations and some necessary upgrades here and there, like when we converted to digital projection. But this one, we really feel like this is kind of a once-in-a-generation project. We're expecting that these are going to be really significant long-term investments for images. It's like we're kind of top to bottom, new projectors, new screens, new sound, new seats, dividing our single screen into two screens. It's a big project. It's going to take a few months. It's a multi-million-dollar campaign, but as of the time I'm sitting here talking to you, we're almost 2/3 of the way total fundraise already.
What's the total goal and where are you at?
The total goal is $2.2 million, and we are almost $1.4 million right now.
That's great. So tell me where this money has been coming from.
It's been primarily from individuals. So we have had a few grants, and there's a few more grants that we expect, particularly from state and local sources, in addition to a few different sort of charitable funds that do giving for capital projects here in Western Massachusetts, but primarily from individuals. And the outpouring of support has been truly phenomenal. I mentioned that we're almost 2/3 of the way total fundraise, but almost a full $1 million of that came in like a 6 or 7 month period when we were really like starting to shift into higher gear. So when we announced this fuller to the wider community within the past couple weeks, it's just been incredible to see just kind of the enthusiasm and the excitement to see that we're already so far along. And there's been a number of smaller gifts starting to come in the past couple weeks, which warms my heart the most. Like, I love to see a lot of zeros on a check, but to me it's even more exciting for the people that almost never give, and they dig deep in their pockets, and if they can, if it's $100 here, $100 there, I love it. And it really feels like it's a collective effort at that point.
How much extra space will you actually be gaining with the expansion?
That's one of the beauties of this. We are not actually increasing our leased space. What I like to think about this is right-sizing our business model and kind of maximizing every available square foot that we already have here at the theater. So in 2018, we ran a pop-up cinema, which was next door, kind of actually in the original second half of the auditorium, because the auditorium got chopped in half in the 80s. And that was kind of a test case for us to see, like, is there demand, is there audience for this? And our attendance and our revenue increased by 20%, but our expenses unfortunately increased by more than 20% because we had additional utilities, had additional leased space, had additional staffing, and all of this is essentially all upside as far as what we're able to do with both revenue growth and increased sort of programmatic and mission impact, all within our existing lease, which is a 20-year lease. So it's, we're really kind of making a long-term investment on that.
So you're splitting the big screen right now into turning it into two screens. How big is the big screen and how big will the two screens be?
Yeah, so we really crunched the numbers looking back as far as 2016, so almost a 10-year period, and looked to see what's our average attendance and kind of where do we peak out before we kind of really make the jump to a much, like an actual sold out big, event with a special guest or that sort of thing, which we only do a few of those a year. And we found that 99% of the time, the attendance was 70 or less. So we're like, okay, so let's reconfigure the main auditorium to service that. And then what can we do with the additional space? So then that's how we get to a smaller theater, which is about 20 seats, which really fits the type of audience that we saw at that pop-up cinema in 2018, or some of the screenings that we've been doing here in the lounge in the past year. So really, it's like we're able to like kind of look at the data and say, okay, so this type of programming gets this many people, this type of programming gets this many people. And right now we're having to like choose between the two. And it's like, now we don't have to choose. Now we can do both all the time, which is what the community's really been responding to.
Awards season for films is over. But what's exciting for you looking forward into 2025 that you're hoping to bring here to Images Cinema?
Well, very soon I'm going to be excited for people to experience Mickey 17, which is new Bong Joon-ho film.
You're an expendable. You're here to be expended.
Every time I died, they just printed me out again.
I got the chance to preview it, and it's pretty great. You know,
the trailer looks so good that I didn't want to get my hopes up, but you were the one who told me about the substance and how good it was, and you were 100% correct.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Pattinson and Robert Pattinson, you know, as the kind of like twin clone roles. I mean, every movie and like acting decision that guy has made in like the last 10 years is just like mwah. I mean, he's so good.
Twilight.
No, not Twilight.
After that.
Everything else.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was a couple films that I saw at Sundance that I'm going to be excited when we're able to show them. There's this film called Sorry Baby, which won the screenwriting award, which was the same award that A Real Pain won this past year, which was one of my favorite movies out of Sundance, and it was up for a few Oscars this year. It's hard to say because I feel like there's like a kind of continued like long-term effects with the strikes and kind of like how that like shook up productions over the past couple years. It's interesting because we're seeing this time right now with the industry where the small and indie movies are even more squeezed than they have been recently. So it's hard to know exactly what's coming down the pike and what we're going to be showing here at Images. But, you know, we're going to do some of the bigger auteur summer movies that I haven't seen yet, but I know I'm going to love, like the new Wes Anderson movie. And speaking of Anderson, there's also a new Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Police doesn't like Paul Thomas Anderson. I love Paul Thomas Anderson.
So we'll have a couple of those kind of like big summer auteur kind of tentpole movies that are going to come up. But then as soon as September, we're going to start closing for construction. So there's going to be a lot of great movies that I know we're going to be showing as soon as we reopen, with kind of like a roundup or kind of like a, you know, a Best Picture nominee kind of like review and things like that. So I know there's some stuff that we're unfortunately going to have to wait to show, but we're going to keep a live active presence in the community, both here in the lounge and then also with some kind of off-site venue collaborations and partnerships to kind of have some pop-up programming throughout the fall while the renovation's going on.
It seems like shrinking your screen and like having things closed for a while, and also the perils of independent filmmaking might make an opportunity to interact with both student and local filmmakers. Do you think that this will present an opportunity to work sort of locally with film too?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely been doing more of that. Coming up this spring, we're going to have the second edition of our Berkshire Student Film Festival. It's open to high school and college students, you know, around the Berkshires, but we also go into southern Vermont and kind of the surrounding areas as well. You know, we try to do local film whenever possible, you know, whether that's filmmakers coming to us or if it's just something that we happen to know is shot in Western Massachusetts or that sort of thing. You know, we're going to start having some town hall sort of like listening sessions and kind of like reaching out to the public and talking more about what we think our plans will look like while we're closed, but we're definitely open to collaboration ideas and like being pitched on, oh, I've got this movie that I want to show, or we've got this place that you can come show movies. So I'm up for it. I'm open to it.
Yeah. Luckily, you got a couple colleges, giant art museum in the general vicinity, smaller art museum right down the street. So there's lots of places where you could make this fun pop-up stuff happen. Dan Hudson from Images Cinema here in Williamstown. Is there a deadline on this campaign to try to raise money for this second screen here, this Looking Forward campaign? Is there a hopeful timeline where you want the campaign to be closed by if people are interested in contributing to it? You're already 2/3 of the way there, close to the $2 million goal.
Over the next 6 months, we're going to continue to host different types of fundraising events or just events for the community to come learn more about the campaign. We have different opportunities like a seat campaign. Like you can like buy a plate and put it on one of the seats in the new theater. So we have some different kinds of fun ways that people can like either learn about the campaign or get involved. There's a few large gifts that we still have pending out there as far as grants and things that we're going after. But there's lots of ways for people to get involved. At every dollar counts. We expect that over the next 6 months we'll have either raised or have pledged the remaining third of the campaign to go.
If we put our monies together, we can buy a seat and just put a tab on it that says your mom.
I love it.
The Look Forward campaign for Images Cinema is ongoing. Find more information about that and connected events on their website, imagescinema.org. Thanks to Dan Hudson from Images Cinema for chatting with us.
We'll hear about the folks inside and outside of prisons who get to tell their stories through movement with the Justice Dance Project.
After we meet the many bunnies helping to create more communities despite our differences with Mo Willems at his latest charity art exhibition.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, offering solar options, energy security, and solutions for the local community. Learn more at northeast-solar.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Window World of Western Mass, a local family business with experienced craftsmen offering vinyl, composite, and James Hardie siding. windowworldofwesternma.com.
We are looking at a children's book with the children's book author himself, Mo Willems from Northampton, here at the R. Michelson Gallery on Main Street. What is this book, Mo?
This is me and other bunnies.
Will you read a little bit from this book?
I will. This book is dedicated to us, all of us. Me and Other Bunnies by me. I am me. You are you. We are us. They are them. They cross the page. Now all the bunnies are together. Now we are us again. And it continues and continues and continues, and they say, Hubba wah, even more of us. Oh me, oh my. We are a lot of bunnies, and they're just bunnies everywhere, dressed different, doing different things, enjoying themselves in different ways. So many bunnies. And I am still me.
Me and Other Bunnies is the name of this show here at the R. Michelson Gallery, where I believe it's the 5th year in a row.
Ninth year.
Oh my goodness.
Year.
Where did the last 4 years go?
There we go. Hopefully the next 4 go quickly.
Where you have done a fundraising exhibit using your
Yes.
artwork through the R. Michelson Galleries, and you usually choose a local-ish charity, but you've got
I have always done local charities, but this year we are giving our proceeds to fire relief in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to me. In the last year or so, I've opened up a company that has offices in Los Angeles. I have a lot of friends there. I have a lot of neighbors there. And this is a time to remind ourselves that neighbor is a big word and should encompass a lot. And while there are always things happening, and things that are happening are always not great.
They're not always not great. They're just not always great.
They're not always great. The people who are affected by this thing that seems eons ago.
It wasn't that long.
It was like a month
It was like
and a
a
half
couple
ago.
of months.
Yeah, 2 months
Not
ago
even.
now.
Yeah.
They need our support, and this specifically is going to go to teachers, to restock libraries, art supplies, things like that. So this show is me and Other Bunnies and other stuff. It is the original art of bunnies from me and Other Bunnies, the actual drawings in the books, and then stuff that I have posted online over the last year or so, little drawings, little doodles that people sometimes say, oh, I'd love to get that. Well, now you can, and you can fight fire with art.
I don't think I realized that you did all of them individually and then scanned them into the whole that is the pictures in the book to make the various thems and us's.
Yes, so usually I would do the entire composition, but because this has got a sort of a Where's Waldo-y, lots and lots of bunnies, I wanted to get a backstory for each bunny and draw them in each page one after the other so that I could see who they became friends with and what they did. So sometimes you'll see different bunnies together, but you'll see all the bunnies are labeled by their letter, which is when they first appear, and by their number. And ultimately, I'm going to forget. It's a lot of bunnies.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bunnies.
They were so fun to draw. It was so fun to find these sort of differences within the bunnies and to see them be a little bit confused and to see them finally be themselves and enjoy themselves with others. Yeah, I had a lot of fun drawing this.
Describe some of these bunnies that we're looking at here, Mo Willems.
All right, so you've got a bunny here that's missing half an ear. It's definitely a sporty bunny. It's got a number 3 on its sports shirt. You've got an artist bunny with a beret and a palette.
Is that you?
No. I would never dress so formally. I am me.
Yeah.
There's a ballet bunny. There's a bunny in a wheelchair with a little bit of a sassy attitude. Here is a bunny wearing a hidden pigeon shirt.
There's always one pigeon hidden, at least, in every Mo Willems book.
The pigeon hates it when I make books that are not about him. And so in the middle of the night, he sneaks into every single book that I've illustrated, every television thing that I've ever done, every piece of theater. The pigeon is always hiding somewhere.
Just like real pigeons.
Yeah.
How do they continue to poop here?
I was watching a comedian who had a joke about doves being released out at funerals.
I'm just trying to imagine what it would be like to be a released dove at a Bronx funeral. You know? And then you land on some roof somewhere, you're like, all right, I guess I gotta get my bearings. And then a pigeon laying right behind you, just, what's up, sweet thing? How you doing, huh? Hey, you looking fine as hell. No spots or nothing. Hey, you must be new to the city. Let me show you around.
That's comedian Josh Johnson.
People don't like pigeons because pigeons are successful.
Also,
They're smart.
we made those. Like,
Yes.
we have pigeons because of human folly. Pigeons are not a natural thing.
Yeah, what's the other one? Starlings? Is that the one that annoyed everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wanted to bring all of Shakespeare's birds over to this
That's
continent,
right.
and they're like,
Yeah.
what have you done?
Yes.
Nay, I'll have a starling shall be taught to speak nothing but Mortimer, and give it him to keep his anger still in motion.
Hear you, cousin, a word.
But here's the thing. It's true that pigeons are a human construct, but we don't need to apologize. They're not like dachshunds, where you just say, look, I'm really sorry. We weren't being serious.
It used to be a wolf.
We were just playing around.
Or pugs.
Yeah,
We're just like, we're really sorry that you can't breathe.
You can't even breathe.
Oh, here, this is germane to we just had an award ceremony.
Ah, yes. This one, it's a fun little green dot holding some sort of an award, and it says acceptance speech under it. And what is the green dot saying, Mo Willems?
It is what it is. I will do my best with that.
That's for the people that didn't win the award.
Well, honestly,
That's the acceptance.
I feel like that's a really good way to approach compliments if you're bad at them. Like, it's like, I will do what I can with this information.
Yeah, but I just now get the double meaning. The acceptance is that you lost.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly right.
Those are the real acceptance speeches. Demi Moore's face when she didn't win for Best Actress.
I try to be myself.
Mo Willems, Me and Other Bunnies, here at the R. Michelson Gallery, a fundraising exhibit that you can come and check out at any time when the gallery's open here on Main Street in Northampton. And if you were to purchase any of these things, would go to support fire relief in LA after the wildfires there. It is a bunny-themed exhibit.
Yes.
This is not your first foray into the world of bunnies. You have an incredible trilogy that is, I couldn't even describe it without getting emotional and teary, the Knuffle Bunny trilogy.
Correct.
We've already talked a little bit about pigeons and how much you love
Yes.
drawing them, but tell us about what's fun about bunnies.
Well, so the Knuffle Bunny books, originally that was a bear. And the Knuffle Bunny is an inanimate object. It's not a character, it's a stuffed animal. And I couldn't get emotion out of a bear that wasn't alive, but with the ears of a bunny, I could get surprise and sadness and whatnot. So what I love about bunnies is they have big ears, and their ears can tell you how they feel. I usually avoid bunnies because I want to kind of have animals that other people don't use. But in this one, I felt like everybody is somebody special.
Every bunny is somebody special. And it's interesting how much you use us in this book, Me and Other Bunnies.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard from the President of the United States that us is like U.S., which is what some people call this country.
You spell us, U.S. I just picked that up. Has anyone ever thought of that before? I just picked that up.
Is there a little underlying message?
The message is not a message, it's a question. And the question is, who are we? How do we make us's? And how can we remain ourselves? I believe that we are happier with more us.
The bunnies certainly are.
Yeah. Is that why we're going after Greenland? I see, us, not U.S. Right. A lot of the times you do this fundraising exhibit, Mo, it's called right from your sketchbook.
That's right.
Yeah, so
this year, the reason that they're not drawings from my sketchbook is this year's sketchbook had no drawings in it. It was all about typography. It was called punctuation, and it was about active sort of graphics. So
emphasis on the punk.
Punk, right. So instead of a period, there was a period drama. And instead of a question mark, you can use a semi-collapse or a collapse or a leading question mark, which is a question mark with a different shape. This is a hesitation mark, which is an exclamation point with different things missing. An expectation mark, an exclamation mark, which is an exclamation point with three
You've escalated the exclamation.
Exactly. An exclamation bark.
Which looks like what you would use to signify a dog barking in cartoon form.
Air quoting while also quoting marks.
It looks like the design of a synchronized swimming routine.
Yes. Here's, looks like a comma that's also an umbrella. That's an inclement. There's a viral hashtag. Is a hashtag that doesn't stop. A contention mark. So I like, this was volume 32. 32 years I put out these sketchbooks for clients and friends. I think it's going to be a 40-year project. I used to say it was going to be a 50-year project, but 50 is 10 more than 40.
Yeah.
So this is the first year where I did all of these digitally, so there is no original art. And that's why we decided to have art from Me and Other Bunnies and from the sort of social media posts that I make over the year. So here's one that's a ribbon. I have a birthday this year. This would be appropriate for anyone.
Except for the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Who has a birthday this year, right.
Well, you can say, you just can't celebrate it.
Yeah, my Jehovah's Witness friends always find creative ways around this.
We are us.
I also love this one with the classic of Elephant and Piggy, the Legends of Mo Willems' creation.
Very seldom do I draw my characters in the social media posts. I try to sort of cleave those two. But this, I just felt it was a blue day, and I felt like I could call a friend and maybe make that friend feel better, make myself feel better. And then when I think of that, I'm like, well, if I'm feeling that, maybe others are. And so I made this drawing of Elephant and Piggy calling each other.
Did you actually call a friend?
Absolutely.
You want to say who you called?
Absolutely. No.
It wasn't me.
No. I was a friend. But we are all us, Monty.
I text you every time you have a #1 New York Times selling book, and I say, Cher has to do the dishes one night this week, your wife.
No dishes if we hit the bestseller list. It is
one night.
One night.
Yeah.
But I tell you, man, whenever I'm making a book and I'm like, should I make this drawing a little better? I think of those dishes.
It's good to have goals.
Yeah, totally.
Can we talk about your two abstract pieces?
Yeah, I still love abstraction, and I've been drawing abstraction more and more. It reminds me that there are fundamental things that are always going to be there, that there are shapes and forms and color, and we all get the same shapes. We all get the same colors. We all get the same forms. What we do with them is what makes us interesting. So there is nothing unique about what I've been given. What is unique is about what I do with it. Oh, and there's also, last year's sketchbook was doodles based on the numbers from 0 to 100, and we've turned that into an art poster, so you can get a signed poster of that. Those are still available for someone who wants to get something but is not quite in the place to get some original art.
I love it. And then that'll all go to help support the wildfires in LA too.
All of the stuff, whether it's stuff from my book, stuff that isn't hanging, any stuff during this exhibit, my proceeds to teachers affected by fires.
Mo Willems, talk a little bit about what you've been doing in LA and the Hidden Pigeon Studios. As we've been covering this exhibit year after year now, this is the third time we've come for this show for this exhibit. We hear a little bit more and more about Your pigeon that has been doing these YouTube videos, etc.
Yeah.
What's on the horizon for
man, there
hidden
is
pigeons?
so much exciting stuff that I cannot talk about.
Not yet.
There's the first thing. It's going to be amazing. It's incredible. Can't talk about that. And then there's this other thing that I never thought would be possible. Also, cannot talk about it.
Why don't you just tell us and I'll bleep it out?
Oh, it's going to be amazing, especially when the happens to the and your mind is. But I will say, I can announce, we did a toy called a Tony with the pigeon, and you put the thing on the little box, and it sings songs and reads books, and there's going to be an Elephant and Piggy one.
It's called a Tony?
It's called, yes.
So if you want to be an EGOT winner, but you're missing
right,
one.
Exactly.
That's kind of like an Amiibo.
Yeah. Okay. There's some great toys. We're going to be doing more baseball games this year.
Oh, yeah. Now, that broke my heart
I
a
know,
little bit.
it broke your heart.
But tell Red Sox fans and others what you got to do last year.
Last year, I got to throw out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium because it was Mo Willems' Day. The pigeon was there. Elephant and Piggy was there. There were hats and shirts, and I got to take the ball and throw it directly and very well to first base because I missed the catcher entirely.
Did you practice at all?
I had done minor league games. I had done the Cyclones, and I always felt like I did it. But the majors, I couldn't.
Yeah, when you're in the big show, it's a different story.
It's a different thing.
Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
Have you been contacted by the Red Sox to do this at all?
It will not happen this year at the Red Sox, but there will be more and different baseball teams doing it. So if you have a baseball team, don't get mad at me.
I am a little. I'm not.
Get mad at the Red Sox.
You're from New Orleans originally,
right?
And now you live here.
I know.
You don't have any affinity. Well, you did live in Brooklyn.
I did live in Brooklyn. Look.
So then why aren't you a Mets fan?
This is not about. This is not
because hope.
Look, these are difficult times. Yeah, I will tell you, when I started touring, the first question I would get as a children's author was, are you a Red Sox or Yankees fan? First question, every single time. And the answer was, of course, yes.
Well, we know Fenway's organist, so we're going to try to figure out how to have Mo Willems Day at Fenway.
I would love that. I love Fenway. I love all baseball. I did not go to a lot of major league games, so it's still special for me, but when my son was young, we went to the Cyclones all the time. Mm-hmm. Loved going to the Cyclones.
It is Mardi Gras, and we happen to be talking to Mo Willems, who is a New Orleans native. What do you miss most about Mardi Gras in New Orleans when you're here in cold Northampton?
That isn't the food.
Or the food.
That isn't the food. I think that's hard.
Because that's an easy answer.
The food for sure. I turned 18 on Mardi Gras Day. This is, 5,000 years ago. And man, that was a great 18th birthday. I really enjoyed it. But I've been listening to Galactic. I've been listening to Irma Thomas. I have been getting my New Orleans on. And I've also been listening to more contemporary stuff, which is also great. I just found a picture, I think, 2 years ago, Muses did a giant pigeon float, which was great. It was Don't Let the Pigeon Drive This Float. And the guy actually driving the float was like in a full pigeon costume and stuff like that. And so in terms of like emotional career highs, that's one. I had no idea. I just started getting pictures from friends in New Orleans. Like, look, there's your bird.
The exhibit, Me and the Other Bunnies, will remain up through the end of March. Thanks so much to R. Michelson Galleries and Mo Willems for showing us around.
Up next, we're off to the Berkshire Community College to speak with a group teaching folks of all walks of life to put their own stories into movement when we speak with Judy Dworin.
From the Justice Dance Performance Project. Ha-ha! You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. The word they eventually come.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Ski Sundown in nearby New Hartford, Connecticut, offering group, private, or semi-private lessons for all ages and ability levels. Options and details available at skisundown.com. Winter made better.
We call ourselves the Fabulous 413, the name of the show, so we don't often delve into the Hartford area. But because you're coming to Berkshire County, then that that gives us a good excuse to talk to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, really.
We figure out creative ways to make exceptions sometimes for good organizations. Yeah.
Well, thank you for making an exception.
We love it.
No, our pleasure.
So great.
This is right up our alley.
Okay.
Totally. This Thursday, March 6th, Berkshire Community College will host 2 free performances of a moving and powerful dance exploring incarceration and freedom.
Unmuting will be presented by the Justice Dance Performance Project, a Hartford-based dance company that works in prisons, detention centers, and community reunification programs. This is a rare opportunity to hear directly from people who have spent time in prison and have grappled with finding their own voices.
We are joined by Judy Dworin, the executive and artistic director of the Justice Dance Performance Project, Inc., who's bringing Unmuting to Berkshire Community College this week. It was hard when hearing about this program, Judy, not to compare it to one of my favorite movies that was Oscar nominated, Sing Sing, about the importance of arts in a carceral setting. This is not the only thing that the Justice Dance Performance Project does, working with people who are incarcerated, but talk about the mission of working with people behind bars.
We've actually been working in the prisons for 20 years. This is our 20th year anniversary. We started out working at York Correctional Institution for Women, which is the only women's prison in the state of Connecticut. It was kind of a serendipitous way that it happened. We happened to meet novelist Wally Lamb at a Volunteers for Prison conference where we had been booked to perform, and he asked us if we'd ever been interested in working in a women's prison, and it really had not been on the list for me as a site where we might do work. But as I thought about it, it seemed like it could be a very interesting possibility. And so we arranged to have a visit with a group of women that represented different parts of the prison, already were involved in arts activities in some way. And we were hooked. I mean, it was a powerful discussion and kind of broke down so many of the predispositions that one might have about who's in prison that we don't even realize that we have. And all of that kind of fell away, and it felt to the three of us who were in that initial meeting that this was something that we would be in for the long term, and we have been. So we've been at York since that time, and we're also now working in a men's prison, Cybulski Reintegration Center in Enfield, Connecticut, in a Dads and Kids program. At York, we have a Moms and Kids program, as well as the original performance residency, and work with 18 to 25-year-olds. We also work with young dads at Manson Youth Institution, who are also within that age range of 18 to 25. And we do reentry work with those that come back out from prison, as well as working with kids who have parents in prison that are in the schools of Hartford and Greater Hartford region.
I want to ask you about how you've seen movement work in the places that you've taken the program, because for Sing Sing, it's theater, and in other places it's other arts, but I feel like dance has a particular connection with people and their bodies and the stories that they tell.
Actually, when we go in to do this work, it's very much an inter-arts approach. So movement is the base, and that's always the starting point for us in everything that we do. But we also include the other art forms. But I think that our bodies, we hold so much information and history in our bodies, and we also hold so much tension there. And so once one is grounded in one's body, one is able to open up in many ways to understand the stories that are inside, and to build a sense of trust in oneself and with the other people that are in the group to be able to share that with others. We started out with a movement, and then we also introduced singing and also spoken words, so that telling your story. And that all worked very well. When we were invited by Department of Correction to start a program at men's prison. We really had no idea how the movement work would go. And it was so positively received. I mean, it allowed the men to first be hesitant, but not really that hesitant. And they really opened up and found the movement to be freeing and allowed them to play in ways that they hadn't ever been allowed to in their lives. In general, and even in the detention centers, the young men were somewhat resistant and skeptical in the beginning, but have gradually opened up to the process. So I think the first step is establishing a sense of trust in the room who you are and that you're there because you want to be and because you really see them as who they are in that moment and not who they might have been when they made the mistake that got them there. And then from there, really begin to start with the body and then open up to what is the story that you want to tell.
We're speaking with Judy Dworin, who's the executive and artistic director of the Justice Dance Performance Project, who is going to be bringing 2 free performances to Berkshire Community College this Thursday, March 6th at 2 and 5:30 of Unmuting. The folks that are coming with you, Judy, are they formerly incarcerated or are they currently incarcerated?
They're formerly incarcerated. Those that are currently incarcerated would not be allowed to come out, but we do keep in touch with those that come out through our programming, so that we encourage those that when they leave whatever institution they're at to keep in touch and continue the work that they started in prison. Because I think if you found something, it's important to kind of keep nurturing that, keeping it alive in yourself. And so we encourage them to continue the work when they leave. And not everybody does, but those that do, eventually they have become part of this touring, doing this work. Called Stepping Out is the program. It's a mentorship with our professional ensemble. And in the prison work, it's now enough of those people that we've worked with have gotten out or in the community that we can have them be part of this performing. They get paid for their rehearsals and the performances.
That's amazing. And I mean, it's so hard to find work sometimes after you have been incarcerated. So the fact that they can do this thing that they probably fell in love with when they were behind bars and get paid to do it and to share their stories, their important stories with the greater community is amazing.
Not just finding work, but being able to do artwork.
Right.
It's so cool. How does the work that you get to do in prisons differ from the work that you get to do in schools? Do you end up seeing similarities in the ways that people move or the stories that people tell?
You know, I think that the way we approach our work in the prison is the way we approach our work everywhere. We start out with the idea that we're all human and that we're all people that have gone through life and carry trauma within us, as well as having made choices that we might not have been happy about, and also having joys and successes. And so I think that we start out with a kind of common denominator. And so that in that sense, I think that what comes out in terms of the stories, I have found that those that we work with that are in carceral institutions in a safe situation go very, very deep. And that the work that they do is extremely powerful and has an authenticity that sometimes is harder to find when you're on the outside and have more and more defenses in terms of being able to share some of those stories. What they do speaks to all people. And I think the importance of taking the work out in the way that we do and to reach the general public is to change perceptions of who's in prison. It's not them. They are a part of us. And in understanding that, I think one's view of incarceration and on criminal justice begins to change. I think that the stories go deep, and they are stories that go deep for everybody. You don't have to have been incarcerated to identify with these stories because you just have to be human.
We're speaking with Judy Dworin from the Justice Dance Performance Project, who will be performing at Berkshire Community College this Thursday. You've been doing this type of programming for a long time, Judy, and I see from your timeline on your website that it was pretty recently in 2022 renamed from the Judy Dworin Performance Project to the Justice Dance Performance Project. So you get to use the same JDPP.
Right.
But I'm assuming it's because of the overall mission and what you have experienced in seeing the transformative aspects of what you have brought using the world of performance and dance and art. I hate to put you on the spot, but can you think of one story that really tells the story of how transformative what the work you're doing has been for an individual that you've worked with over these years?
Yeah, that is a bit of on the spot because it's hard to think of one story. But I'll tell you about a family that to show the impact. And it involves a mom who was incarcerated and now is performing with us, and her 2 children. Now, the mom was in our program for quite a long time when she was at York and grew tremendously in that process. At the same time, her 2 kids, we were working in the schools on a very consistent basis as well as had an after-school program. They participated in the after-school program, and then they moved to Hartford and were able to participate in the program we had in Hartford in school. So those two kids had this work on the outside. They also visited when their mom performed, and they also were part of our Moms and Kids program. So we had these special visits where moms and or dads later on and their children could engage through the arts with each other and have a much more normalized visit together. We followed their lives through their development as their mom couldn't. She saw them at these various intervals, and we saw them in the community. And all together, there was this incredible growth that happened for both child, mother, and caregiver. And so now the mom worked at JDPP as a fellow when she got out of prison for a while, and now performs with us in this work. Her children are now grown. Her daughter is applying to Ivy League colleges, and her son is working in the community right now and going on to technical school. And there's still this incredible bond that exists from this work, and somehow this work helped the family unit, and the family unit almost became family with JDPP. And I would say not almost, but became. And so that's just one example, and there's so many others.
I have a question about your program, A Response and a Call, which was developed in response to the George Floyd murder, but brought together artists of color to look at just the disparities in America. And it's a really cool series that you can see some of the talks on YouTube. But do you see more of that sort of work being necessary and adjacent to some of the other restorative work that you're doing?
I see all of the work as having one vision. And I think the vision is that the arts are for all people, and all communities are important and need to have a voice. And so we've always found our way in giving voice to those that are either marginalized or have not had sufficient voice. And that will be our mission as we continue on. The Response to the Call series has been a beautiful, beautiful series, and has brought artists forward that have talked about all different kinds of aspects of living in this culture, in its divisions and in its opportunities to experience joy and progress. I think that it is one example, as is the work with incarcerated populations, to bring forward and to open up the idea of what it is to be a whole community in its fullest sense.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Unmuting specifically, the work that you're going to be bringing to Berkshire Community College?
Sure. It's a piece that was born in 2022. We were commissioned at Trinity College, where I taught for many years. I was taught in theater and dance, but the English department and the Alan K. Smith Endowment sponsored a symposium that was called Unmuting: Voice in Justice Impacted Art. And this performance was kind of the featured event in that symposium. I gathered together a group of formerly incarcerated individuals. And at that time, when we first made the piece, some of the individuals who were in it had just gotten out of prison, and others had performed pieces of theirs when they were in prison. So it was a kind of joining together of these individuals, and then also showing the impact of incarceration on children. And I think the intent of the piece is to show the whole question of incarceration's impact, and raises questions and awareness, I think, in doing so. There are a lot of stories of spoken word, and there is singing and dance, and there's a through-line dancer that is dancing through the piece.
We've been speaking with Judy Dworn, who's the executive and artistic director of the Justice Dance Performance Project, the JDPP, which celebrated its 35th anniversary last year, and which is bringing Unmuting for free to Berkshire Community College this Thursday. 2 performances at 2 and 5:30 in the Robert Boland Theater. Although it is free, they're asking you to register. It sounds like a powerful and moving experience. And thanks for telling us a little bit about it, Judy.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure.
Pleasure's all ours. And if Unmuting has you intrigued about all of the other programs that the Justice Dance Performance Project is creating, you can, of course, head to their website to find out more about interacting with those, jdpp.org.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. When we were talking with Northampton's own Mo Willems, who is a New Orleans native, we did mention that today is Mardi Gras Day.
Dans le bon temps roulé.
Yes, and Khalees and I both come from music radio prior to this show, so it's one of the days that I most miss being on a music radio station. I'd go wall-to-wall New Orleans Mardi Gras music on a day like today.
Yes, which is why we started with Big Frida.
Big Frida, who that was right there. If you're not familiar with Big Frida, you have probably heard her on Beyonce's albums.
Yes.
But I remember I've only been to New Orleans one time ever, and we were sitting right here in this studio, and I was just Googling, who's at Tipatina in New Orleans when I'm there? And lo and behold, it was Big Frida.
And I was like, you have to go see her live.
Yeah.
She's amazing live.
And I did. I bought tickets, and then I showed up there, and they never asked for the tickets, and I thought,
this is the best.
I should have just tried to crash the gates. But
no,
whatever.
No, pay people for your work.
That's true.
You paid Frida for the show, and that is a good thing.
Other favorites of New Orleans music, Khalees?
I mean, Tank of the Bangers.
Yeah.
Because everybody in the Marsalis family.
Right.
Because, like, there's too many to list. Alan Toussaint.
Who played Green River Festival. I
Yes.
got to meet him backstage.
Yep.
What an honor that was. It was about 100 degrees. He was in a three-piece suit. He got out of his limo, and I asked him, how do you say cool in a suit like that? And he said, I've never thought of it. And I was like, so I'm going to think cool thoughts when it's hot. No, I wear suits when I'm at the Green River Festival.
Positive thinking makes it all happen. Yeah, like there's so much good there. It's hard to narrow down what you'd like.
A couple big New Orleans connections to the Valley, of course, is that Nan Parati, who formerly owned Elmer's in Ashfield, is down in New Orleans right now getting ready for the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival as their art director. Klondike Kaler, a legendary sound guy, did the sound for the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, lives in Turner's Falls. And I'll say as a plug, we're going to be at the Back Porch Festival this Friday and Friday night, if you love New Orleans music, as part of the Back Porch Festival at 33 Holly in Northampton. CJ Chenier and the Red Hot Louisiana Band, as well as
phenomenal. They're
so
so good.
Cedric Watson and Bijou Creole are going to be performing on Friday
also
night, too.
wicked good live.
Yeah.
Like nothing but good sounds from down in the bayou.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw Chris Smither in there, too, who lives in Amherst now, but is also a New Orleans legend.
Indeed.
On the next Fabulous 413, we're gearing up for the Back Porch Festival with one of the many artists you can see on Friday across the many venues of Northampton, Cow Person, for a little live music Wednesday.
And we'll follow the laughter all the way to White Lion in Springfield, where this weekend you can see 3 generations of comedians taking to the mic. Comedian Gerald Kelly joins us to talk about his 30th anniversary event, and who'll be cracking jokes on stage.
Plus the word nerd, Emily Brewster. If you got a question, the Fab413 at nepm.org. We leave you with Preservation, who was one of the headliners of last year's Back Porch Festival.
So good.
Preservation Hall Jazz Band from New Orleans. See you tomorrow.